What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Salty Runback, here to be your weekly intake of North American Developmental League of Legends. We are here with episode number 20, which is crazy. We've been here for a long time here, Hawk, and week 2 of the NACL has just finished up. The first round of group stages, the qualifiers are all done, and we're going to talk all about it. But first, got to ask here my beautiful co-host, Hawk, how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing pretty well. It's been a bit of a weird day, but I'm doing pretty well. And it's just crazy to me that we're now on episode 20. Like, you know, we started this off at the beginning of spring just as a thing to do on the side. And so many people have really enjoyed the content. So we've kept putting it out, and it's been a lot of fun to do. So, you know, here's to 20 more, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully more than that as well.
Yeah.
We'll get to 40 or so by the end of the season, I think. My math is correct. Maybe a little bit behind or forward or something like that. But a reminder that we do have a lot of new games coming up next week. We are not streaming any of them on our Twitch channel, but you can follow twitch.tv/RallyCryOfficial and RallyCry2. We have been trying very hard to get the follower count up on those accounts because they are very new, and we need people to know that those were the qualifiers are happening. And I think that's about it. If we want to just get into the headlines, we have an interview with Chad Jungle coming up later. Hawk got the chance to talk to the Mirage Alliance jungler, which was really cool. So don't just click out after the headlines. We got some good content afterwards as well.
Yeah, Chad had some good stuff to say, so make sure you stick around for that. He's a good interview candidate, Grapes. But like you said, we got some headlines to get out of the way first. And I mean, honestly, it's been a pretty tame week. You know, every week's a banger in North America. Like it's kind of nice almost to have a week that was like pretty chill, all things considered. I feel like.
Yeah, we can get into it. There are some fun games that happened in the NACL. Yeah. We can start off with one of the teams that did make a couple of changes going into this week. Wildcard subs out Duo King for Donbray for the remainder of the summer split or until Isles gets his visa back, which from what I've heard is a little bit unlikely for the time being. So it looks like Wildcard going to be running with Donbray for the rest of the split. And he's looked really good. The Wildcard went 5-1. They are now sitting at tied for second place, I believe, in the NACL standings. Hawk, how much does this one change make for this roster?
See, so interesting because I don't really know if like this one change is really like, oh my God, Wildcard's all of a sudden so good because they have Donbray. Like, I don't think that's necessarily how I feel about this change. With that being said, though, I'm super happy for Donbray to see this change being made because I think Donbray is extremely talented, and on a roster like Wildcard, getting to learn alongside someone like Saligo who has so much experience. Donbray, a pretty new player, has only really been playing since like 2021, and when like Donbray's not played on that many teams either. So the fact that he's getting this chance now on such a high-profile team and seemingly like living up to that mechanical skill level that I think everyone knew that he did have is really great to see. So I guess to go back to the question, like, yeah, I don't know if this is like necessarily the secret sauce for Wildcard, but it's already a great team. And so Donbray has been allowed to shine alongside them.
I thought Donbray deserved an opportunity to play with on an NACL team from the start of this year. So I'm glad that he finally does get the opportunity to do so. I mean, every single time he's been on on a team, it was been with an LCS affiliate, whether it was TSM Amateur, 100 Thieves Next, where he subbed for part of spring, and then Evil Genius's Prodigies in the summer. And so it's very clear that a lot of organizations value this player very heavily, and it's nice to see him get this opportunity. I always love the way that he has played, and hey, on this Wildcard team, he looks pretty good. I think he's just kind of slots in nicely, and now that Moose Hater and Duo King are both gone, it creates a different identity, I think, for this roster a little bit. But you still have Keel, who I think is a very talented jungler, and Lens, who I think is one of the better prospects that we have in this space. And so you pair that up with two new, younger, really talented players as well, with Zamudo and Donbray, both of which are able to experiment a little bit with their champion pools and also maybe give a little bit more flexibility for this team. I think the Wildcard is going to be a pretty strong team throughout. I don't think this is a fluke. This 5-1, not necessarily something that we should just dismiss, because I think this team's going to be in the top half for the rest of the split.
Yeah, I'm with you. Honestly, once again, I think I really underrated Wildcard coming into the split. They have, again, stepped up. I remember my feelings were that I didn't feel like they had upgraded enough when a lot of other teams had upgraded. Well, maybe Wildcard was just that damn good the whole time. Also, like, Zamudo is kind of the GOAT, and now with Donbray coming as well. Like, clearly the thing with Wildcard is they're just picking up some, like, very mechanically talented players. And I don't know like what the coaching staff is feeding them over there because they play together well as a team as well. So it's great to see.
I am sad to see a lot of tank play for Zamudo. I feel like he's
I
on the Gragas all
know.
the time. He did have the Auction game, which
Yeah,
was
the
very
auction
cool
game,
against Maryville.
which was a bit
Niles,
of a banger in all the wrong ways, if I'm being honest. But they won it. They
Yeah.
won. So.
he destroyed lane, griefed a little bit after that, and then he somehow
It's
won
a
the
solo
game at
queue
the end as
experience.
well. So it's
Zamudo's just all of our solo queue top laners. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
You know?
that was a very entertaining game. I'll give Zamudo credit for that. That's gonna be fun to watch. This is gonna be a fun team. I'm very excited for this. Also, I get to root for them because Duo King's not on the roster. Boom. All right, next topic. Here we go.
Banger.
Topic number 2, which we'll be talking about. Another team that Wildcard did defeat in disguise. They went 2-0 against them, and that was part of their 5-1 weekend. Wow, Disguise Toast's team surprisingly in the middle of the standings. This is a roster that we had highly regarded for a large part of the offseason. Of course, there's a lot of hype surrounding it. Haven't necessarily met that expectation. Are you worried about them, Hawk?
It's so weird because like no, but there is something odd happening over at DSG because not only are they like struggling, they're struggling because they're splitting every series. They're currently like 1-4-1 in terms of wins, draws, losses. Their losses to Wildcard this past weekend, which I would already say is a team that they should at least be able to split the series with. And their only win in a series is over Team Fish Taco, who's considered one of the weaker teams in the league. Obviously, maybe we'll talk about that more later, but it's just weird to me because DSG, they've played some of the best teams in the league, they played some of the worst teams in the league, and they're splitting games anyway. And they're doing it in the sense where like they'll destroy game 1. And then they'll get destroyed game 2, which feels to me like that means there's something wrong happening with the team dynamic in that they have not come together as 5 yet. Like, I don't know if they're hands checking people or what, but it's just so odd to me that a team could look so good in one game and so bad the other and so consistently do that. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, Graves.
I'm trying to figure out the best way to compartmentalize all my thoughts. I think what I want to say is that when Disguise, like, when they get everything that they want in the first 10 minutes, they're going to run the floor with the game. Right. We've seen a lot of instances. I think Tomio actually has looked very good, a little bit better than I might have expected going into this year so far. And Fake God has looked good when he's on the Renekton. Just Tomio specifically in the early game, I think, has actually had a lot of strengths. But if they're not able to like get ahead, Young and Meech haven't been able to generate their own leads themselves as much, which maybe was a bit of a concern that we had going into the split. And then it seems like they can't really crawl out of deficits that they get into after the first few minutes of the game. That game against AoE that they ended up dropping this weekend, I remember specifically, like, nothing happened for the first 20 minutes, and AoE was up 4,000 gold, which, to be fair, credit to AoE. I think Will is playing exceptionally. I think he's probably one of the best junglers that we have in the league right now. But I feel like with the caliber of players that Disguise have, they need to kind of push through that a little bit. And I think a large part of that comes through Young and Meech specifically, because those are the younger players. Those are the guys that I think need to take one more step to get to that next step.
Yeah, I'm with you. It just feels like this team, they're struggling to like problem solve hard games, if that makes sense. Where, you know, when the game's easy, oh, guys, we're the best players in the world, like, roll over on to the next one, right? But when the game's hard, it feels like they're struggling to find the right formula, wherever it may be. I'm kind of with you. I do think the bottom lane, like, you know, it's partially a meta thing as well. Like, I do want to see a bit more out of Meech and Zazel in the 2v2. But, yeah, there's just something about this team. It doesn't feel like they've clicked yet. Part of the question was, like, are we worried? No, I don't think I'm worried. It's not even halfway through the split. It's still regular season. Like, regular season in the NACL doesn't super matter to begin with. So I think this team will be fine. I still think they'll be very good. It just feels like there is definitely a growing pain happening with it that they need to sort through.
Yeah, and besides the wildcard losses, which I think wildcard did play really well, the EG loss that they had, I think just they were winning, and then Smoothie just hit like 2 big hooks and there was a couple
The
of
big ones to
catches and they
me
lost, right?
are getting 0-2'd by Wildcard is like Wildcard played really well, but like if you're a top team, don't really want to get 2-0'd by anybody, and then splitting against EG and AoE. Like I think splitting against FlyQuest and Team Liquid at this point is like sure, like they're some of the best teams in the league, but yeah, those are some of my alarming losses for this team.
Yeah, we can talk about some of the teams that they have played against a little bit later. Actually, into our next question. But I agree with you. I'm not super worried about this guys. They'll turn it around.
They'll be fine.
Probably they're like a top 3 roster in terms of just pure talent at least. Like then that's being very generous to some of the other teams in the league. So I think we could move on to actually talk about this kind of same topic. In that there's a lot of teams like right in the middle of the pack. Like Disguise is like 5-5, but there's also or 6-6, I should say, but there's also like a bunch of other teams kind of around there as well. Is there more parity in the league right now?
It's so interesting because we're talking about Disguised splitting games with everybody, but everybody's splitting games. Team Liquid Challengers just narrowly escaped 2-0 defeat against Team Fish Taco. If you told me that 2 weeks ago, I would have thought you were fucking insane. But it happened. And it wasn't like, oh, TLC sucked. No, Team Fish Taco came out, Rosethorn played like a god, and the series was closed. It was a crazy series. And they should have won 2-0 as well. O-Nation fucking stonks, dude. And it's not just that as well. It's Maryville coming off a 4-2 weekend. Cincinnati Fear coming off of a 4-2 weekend. Evil Geniuses Challengers just went 1-5. Wildcard went 5-1. Everybody is just kind of all over the place. For context, 9 of our teams are between 4 and 8 wins. Nobody's below 4, and nobody's above 8 except for Team Liquid, who's 10-2. That is a lot of parity. I do think, again, we're seeing some of these growing pains for some of our expected top teams. Disguise being the big one. We've seen a bit with Maryville as well. I think they're gonna not necessarily be a top team. I think they're gonna ramp up. I would expect things to shake out, but generally, I would say there's more parity. And I think that is partially the byproduct of a 10-team league as well, right? There's just more likely to be more similar talent levels. But the last thing I'll say on this, and then I'll toss it over to you, is I am pleasantly surprised at how Supernova and Team Fish Taco are playing. I know on our episode 2 weeks ago, we were basically let's see if this roster doesn't come 10th. Well, they seem to be playing some respectable League of Legends and stepping up. So credit where credit's due. It's happening for some of the bottom teams.
Yeah, I think every roster has their bright spots and has really good moments, and that was not the case last year. No. I'll have you remember, CLG Faith, FlyFam, Team Liquid First, 90% of their games were 0-2.
It was pretty bad.
It's nice to see any day of the week, Supernova can 1-1 somebody, Supernova can 2-0 somebody. Same thing with Taco. Same thing with a team like AoE or Maryville or Fear or I mean I can't we're starting to get in as I start naming more teams. These are teams that are actually very good, right? And so it's very, very interesting. Taco specifically have very, very much impressed me. They took games off of Fly and Team Liquid this weekend.
They should have 2-0'd them, man. I'm telling you, they should have.
I mean, really impressive stuff coming out of out of specifically Rosethorn. I think we have so many good junglers in this league, Rosethorn, Keel, Music on Supernova, and there's so many really good junglers
so
here.
Stacked. Yeah.
And I think that probably is actually what's taking a lot of these guys to the next level. But I do think Team Liquid is definitively the best team, despite the fact that they did, not look so great against TFT. And then I think FlyQuest and Disguise are gonna get there still. The talent on those rosters, I think, is ahead of them. But since they haven't gotten there yet, these other teams are not just still bottom feeders. They're gonna challenge you every single time.
I think that's the thing. I don't think my expectations for the final standings have actually shifted that much. Like I said, still expect Disguise to make a run. I think FlyQuest and TL are the next best teams. Wildcard, Cincinnati Fear, Maryville, AoE, those kind of teams, somewhere in the soup. And then Supernova TFT probably still at the bottom. But I think there is more parity in the sense of even though my standings placement expectations haven't changed too much, I do think that the ability for Supernova and TFT to challenge the top teams and anyone else is higher. It's not I don't think TL is going to speed run the league after what I saw against TFT. And I think that's the main takeaway here.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, if you ask them coming in, would have said, yeah, Supernova's going to just like
They're just
roll
gonna get
over.
rolled.
Team
Yeah,
Liquid
it was.
or and Disguise are just going to like win all their games. And so I'm glad that's not happening. And because it just makes things more interesting every time you tune in, because you really don't know what's going to happen, which is pretty cool. We can move on to our next topic as we move over to the NACLQ to ask about not a lot of super interesting results that ended up happening. They're generally, all things considered, of course, it was the first round of the group stage, but only one upset ended up happening, and that was Froggy5, the 9 seed, beating CCG, the 8 seed. Apart from that, some of the other interesting things that happened were Miracle dropped a game, Mirage Alliance dropped a game against CB, which was a banger, I have to admit. Are you surprised that there were not a lot of upsets? Because there were a lot of upsets in the Swiss bracket.
It's so funny. I was covering CBLOL all weekend, where out of all my predictions I made for the weekend, I think like 3 of them came true out of 10 games. And then we come over to qualifier, and like it was pretty chalk. And actually, this might be like a blazing hot take. There was almost like more surprise than I kind of thought they were, considering how top heavy we thought this qualifier would be. I wasn't expecting anyone to drop a series, and honestly, Mirage Alliance dropping a game to CB was not expected whatsoever. Because like you said, Froggy5 being the only upset, I seeded Froggy5 higher than CCG. So, I mean, I just think they're better. So, so stuff like that,
Yeah.
I don't consider really an upset. I mean, yeah, like, I think I think it's gonna be more interesting going forward, right? Like, this is the first weekend where it's like 1 seed against 16, right? Like, that's kind of gonna happen. But yeah, no, I'm actually not really that surprised. Is the short answer. As terrible as that is.
I think going into the last couple weeks ago, last week, I think I said at least that I thought that there were like 7 teams that could make a run, and those 7 teams all won their series. So,
Yeah,
I think I'm kind of in line with you here, Hawk, where I think that I wasn't too surprised. I will say, big shout out to CB Gaming. The 16
I know
seed
it is
coming in.
hype.
They were the only team that was seeded outside of the top 16 by the committee, albeit 17th. And they beat Mirage Alliance, a team that people were expecting, like, we're not going to drop a game, not a single map throughout the entirety of the split. They gave Klexo Aurelia in game number 1, and that was a mistake. And Warcyclone played really well in the Lucian as well.
Yeah. If you want to know more about that game and what the hell happened, I've already recorded the interview with Chad, so you stick around for part 2 because we do talk about it. So.
Well, actually, I'm actually really interested to hear that as well, because we were casting the game, me and Summer, and there was a bug on the spectator client, and so we hopped in 8 minutes into the game. And there were already like 6 kills in the first 8 minutes. And Mirage Alliance was like down a couple hundred gold. So I don't know how. I'm pretty sure there was like a failed bot dive, and that is what lost in the game. You don't have to spoil it right now, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
There was an adjective, a noun rather, used to describe a thing, a food, used to describe the game that is the same color as both of our shirts.
Okay, I'm gonna.
That's really mysterious. Not banana, but it's a dairy product.
Yep. That is very much
maybe
expected.
the dumbest thing I've ever said on this show.
Speaking of, Cheese Chasers looking good. I think they were the team against Aporia where I thought like maybe that upset could have happened. Like if Scoop's not on the money, but Scoop was on the money even against them.
Scoop is always on the
really
money,
good.
dude. What is this guy gonna be in Challenger? Like Scoop is fucking insane.
As we transition into this next topic, I do want to say that, I guess this is kind of our lead-in, is that because the 7 teams, as you said, like I thought there was like 7 really, really good teams, and then like 8 or 9, like Froggy5 might be up there, might not be. There's going to be some really exciting matchups for this next weekend of games where we have the winners of these upper bracket games not only qualifying to the quarterfinals early, but they also get 10 bonus qualification points. And that is that's a big change from the spring split, where it actually does really matter that you get these extra points, because I think it's going to be pretty close down the line. Which OQ matchup specifically are you most excited for this weekend, Hawk?
I mean, it's so hard to say because I can't find the schedule.
Okay, it's Mirage Alliance versus Froggy5. It's just in the upper bracket. It's Winthrop versus Komodo. Team Ambition versus Cheese Chasers, and then Lit versus Miracle. Those are your 4. You can also pick a lower bracket one, although I can read
Okay,
them out to you as
already,
well.
actually, the one that sticks out to me really quickly, thank you for rattling that off because I had been looking for prepping for this, where the matchups were, and I was struggling to find it. Anyway, sorry, I wish the schedule was easier to find. But Winthrop against Komodo, y'all should tune into that one because I was pretty high on Komodo coming in. I almost seeded them above TA, and I didn't. So that goes to show, like, I thought Komodo would be really high, and obviously Winthrop is the 2nd seed. Like, I think this is going to be a really good one. I'm pretty certain that Winthrop is my 2nd best team in the tournament, like, pretty solidly. However, not by a lot. And Komodo is a team that could challenge. So that would be the one that I have my eye on in particular, Graves.
I love this matchup. Not necessarily because I think it's going to be close, because I don't really know. I think it will be close, but it's also the Winthrop Civil War, kind of.
True. Yeah, you're right. It's like
Winthrop boys.
Winthrop boomers against, like, actual Winthrop.
Calling him a butt a boomer is just messed up.
That is messed up. You're right.
Like,
I'm sorry, my butt.
But, no, I see where you're coming from. Winthrop... The Winthrop Civil War is gonna be good. I think Aaron got a pentakill last week as well, which is shout out to Aaron, the boy, on the team with his friends. Doxa also old Winthrop. So just layers upon layers.
Old Winthrop 2 years ago.
Yeah. My other
it's okay, I already called them
matchup
boomers, so.
that I'm excited to watch. Oh, I don't know which one I want to talk about. I might want to talk about both. Actually, we can talk about all 3 of them.
Talk about all. Let's go for it. Yeah.
I want to talk about Cheese Chasers versus Team Ambition because I'm very excited to watch Levitate and Snow face off against Scooped. I think that's going to be really fun. Yeah. I remember I don't think Native and Tony Top ever actually played against each other, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they didn't. They never played again because Native always ran into, like, Maryville.
They ran into TFT and then Maryville, so they never ended up facing off. And I know that Native specifically was mad that they never got the chance to play against Tony Top. That they wanted to prove that they were better than them. And
right.
I think Scooped is probably the best marksman in the tournament. I think it's not super hot of a take. And I think Levitate and Snow have proven the most as a bot lane combined out of anybody by qualifying into the NACL. So I think that's going to be really fun to watch. Team Ambition looked pretty clean throughout their games, I believe, against Teamless Revenge. All those ChatGPT tweets from Snow2, trash talking Anori Boob, actually did end up paying off for them. And yeah, do you have anything else about this?
I do think that'll be a really interesting matchup just because I've talked about this before. I don't think Team Ambition's top side is the strongest. Not by any means weak, but it's not like their strength. I do think Levitate and Snow 2 is like my big power point of this team. And so, up against Scooped, I think that makes this a really exciting matchup because I would say that Team Ambition's top side should be better, but, like, it might be a lot about the bottom lane, as a lot of series have been. And so, yeah, Levitate and Snow against Scooped is going to be really exciting, and I'm looking forward to that. That would have been my definitely, like, second most exciting matchup, at least out of the top 4.
Yeah, Kachu versus Aljun in the mid lane will be a fun matchup as well.
Young players
should be
mid there.
The other one, of course, being Lit Esports versus Miracle. This is another game that I casted. Lit are doing some Miracle are doing some wild shit, man. They are basically letting City Witty pick what champion and what role he wants to play on R5.
He is just like straight up a jungle ADC main. Like, this guy plays both, so.
Yep. He played 2 games of AD, played an Aphelios game, carried, played another game. I don't remember what champion exactly.
I think he was playing a lot of AD in the open qualifier, I know, as well.
Yeah, okay, no, they played Aphelios. They won, and City looked really good. They played a Varus game for City, and LJX kind of inted a little bit, and so they lost. And then
I think the funniest part of this is LJX playing. Well, wait, but they've been, like, totally role swapping, haven't they?
Yeah,
it hasn't just been, like, straight up LJX jungle, if I'm not mistaken. Has it?
No,
been,
it's just
like,
LJX jungle. Because, like,
really?
Rovex has always played mid. Dapshin's only playing support. So
maybe I'm crazy. So. Maybe I'm crazy. I could have sworn I saw a game where, like, LJX played top, but maybe I'm wrong.
No. Rovex played Renekton mid. That might be what you're thinking about.
Maybe you're right. I don't know.
But
anyway,
speaking of that last game, After playing ADC for the first 7 games of the tournament, City Woody says, "Fuck it, man, lock me the Kindred, hour 5," and just absolutely carries. He has like 10 stacks in 15 minutes. It was disgusting.
Yeah, I did. I
like,
saw the all battery tweets on that one.
it was like a 1,000 gold lead for Miracle at that point, and we were already saying like the game's over. City has 5 stacks. Like there's no way they ever lose this game, and that's gonna be really fun to watch.
City, Kindred, or Karthus in a good angle. Like it's just dangerous.
And they're going to play against Lit, who I think are very solid. They team fought really well. Sajin and Chae struggled a little bit in lane. I think they'd be the first to admit that, but the late game team fighting out of this squad is what is going to make them exciting, because you have Dragoon, Messages, and Sajid on the same team. That is what makes this team really good, and I think the macro play out of Miracle specifically has been some of the best that we've seen out of all the qualifiers. And so I really don't know who's going to win that one, but it's going to be fun.
I feel like Lit should be better. Like, I think that their players are individually slightly better, but it is tough when you factor in the fact that there's just so much experience on the side of Miracle that it does become a little spicy. And also, like, City Woody and Daption are insane at the game, so it's a little tough oh, there's so many good matchups. I guess what this really says is we just think that Mirage is going to wipe the floor with Froggy 5, which
I mean, Mirage Alliance a little up. I don't know. They did throw the game. They did throw that first game. I will say.
I mean, look, they dropped a game to CB, but I'm not sitting here feeling like they're gonna start like losing. I don't know. I feel like it was more of like
I do think Froggy 5 looked
I feel like it was more of an oopsie.
Froggy 5 did look good.
They
Net9
did.
played really well. And I will give them that. But Mirage Alliance is probably going to win that one. I'm excited, actually, as well, before we close things out for the headlines, is one last matchup. With CB Gaming, they play against CCG, and I think that CCG is one of the weaker, like, 3 seeds right now left, because they didn't look super good against Froggy 5, and CB looked pretty good against Mirage Alliance, and so I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, CB has some fight in them. I do actually, while we have the time, I want to give a lot of credit to CB. They've really stepped it up clearly in like the this year. You know, they were always sort of one of our like low OQ teams, I think, at the end of 2022 in the summer. They've like been actually scouting some really good players. Like even coming into this split, we were like, they don't have the same magic as the old CB, like with Kisno and them. Like they lost all their good guys, and then whoops, they might actually be pretty good again. So shout out to that org for like finding good players and putting together good teams. Like that's always exciting when there's orgs that crop up like that put together good teams of players that we might not necessarily have heard of as much, and take games off of a bunch of XLCS players.
Hey,
like,
if anything, they get a moment that they can remember for the rest of their lives, which is pretty cool.
No, it's awesome. I think there's a lot of good matchups. Like I said, like last week, I was not that surprised based on the results. This week, I think it starts to get pretty spiciness, especially as we head towards like knockout rounds. Given that we think there's like a top 7, top 8, whatever that we have here, I think it's gonna start to get very interesting who starts filling out at these like top spots. Because outside of Mirage Alliance, I do think there should be a lot of parity between 2 and 7 or 8, even if like I like some of the teams better than others. That goes to show that we just talked about 3 of the matchups for pretty in depth. So
yeah, it should be fun. We can watch all that Saturday and Sunday on twitch.tv/Rallycry official and Rallycry 2. Remember to follow us there. We just hit 100 followers on Rallycry 2, which is a big win. But yeah, that's gonna do it for our headlines. We're gonna step aside for our part 2, and Hawk is going to be talking with Chad Jungle of Mirage Alliance.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 2, where I am joined by the legendary jungler of Mirage Alliance, Chad Jungle. Chad, thank you so incredibly much for joining me today. And for anyone, of course, wondering why Grapes maybe isn't here, unfortunately, he's super busy being an adult, having an internship, doing cool things in New York City. So it's just the 2 of us, but still, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously we're coming off the first weekend of group stage in the North American Challengers League qualifiers, and I've got to ask, I think it's a question on everyone's minds. I know last week on the episode I was saying, hey, I don't think Mirage Alliance is going to drop a game. What happened there? What went wrong? Something happened.
Yeah, it was definitely a very interesting loss. I'd say after that game, we definitely had some team discussions mid-series that were very how do you say? We cared a lot. It was a very emotional conversation after that loss. But I don't know. I mean, it was. I think everyone will agree it was a fluke. We just kind of. I think the enemy team, to be fair, had a good game plan going in. They had a let's sack 20 mid waves and run bot level 2, and then let's do it again level 3, and then I think funny enough, I think a top team like we are, most teams you'd think that most teams are like, fuck it, let's just cheese them. But I'd say so far we haven't experienced that at all. I think most teams we played against have been playing pretty standard, even in scrims, no crazy champion cheeses, no crazy, team comp cheeses. But I'd say going into that series, we definitely got cheesed a bit in the game one, which it'd be fair to say that we should
It
expect it
happens. It
because,
happens.
yeah,
Yeah.
but now we're aware and we won't let that happen again.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of an ego check. We're good. Like, hey, we got cheese. We can move on to the next one. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Maybe it was just a fluke, but hey, it was kind of entertaining for us to watch. I mean, my bold claim of I don't think you all will drop a game looked a little silly, but outside of that,
No, I'd say we in our own I guess we'll call it in our own environment. Me and at least me and me and Dardock shared the same opinion. We were talking to each other like the day before the game, like, oh yeah, like we're not gonna drop a game. We're gonna
mm,
be like the first amateur team to just go flawless, and then literally game one we dropped a loss. But I think we'll still continue our win streak in series, and that shouldn't stop at all.
hell yeah, glad to hear it. I had to just mess with you a little bit, of course, but definitely looking forward to that, and we'll get into more about this split in a little bit. But obviously, I one of the big reasons why I wanted to talk with you specifically is because you are one of the players here that has played in Challenger/Academy for quite a while now, and now you're back in the qualifiers environment, and so you've seen both sides of the coin, and with everything that's been happening in the region with the Challengers upheaval, shall we say, you're someone that of course has been directly affected by that. So I just first want to kind of open up the floor and maybe let you just tell me about the reaction that you have to everything and any stories that you have or whatever. Really, I'll open it up to you and we can get more specific from there.
Yeah, I'd say from before the change happened, I was talking to people I know in the scene, and everyone knew that this change was going to happen, that the teams weren't going to be required to host academy teams, but everyone thought it was going to happen next year. It was, from what I
Right.
heard, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, it's going to pass. It's going to be next spring. This is like the last summer uh, of a really competitive environment." And and then I was still in Korea when I remember opening Twitter and seeing the news drop. I was like, oh wow, it's happening.
So you
So
you found out via Twitter.
yeah, I found that via
Oh
Twitter.
man, that sucks.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people were surprised by the teams dropping. I think a lot of people knew that teams were gonna drop soon, but I don't think anyone really saw the summer coming. But I mean, I know it's weird. I think I have like a rare opinion on the entire situation. A lot of people are complaining and saying it's unfair, and but like for me, like in my head, like I made like a conscious choice to get into this industry 2 years ago. In my head, like um it's very performance based work, and it's a sport and it's a business. So in my head, like when you decide to do this over like college or like a different job, in my head, like you are saying that, okay, now that in my head, if you're saying I want to be a professional player, you have to be mentally prepared to be dropped any day for any reason. The GM doesn't like how you smell. The GM doesn't like the food you eat. Like in my head, it doesn't matter what the reason is, performance based, politics. Like if you say I'm gonna be a professional player, you should be expected to get dropped over anything, any reason, unfair, not unfair, performance based politics. That's just how I see it. A lot of people don't share the same opinion. Like, oh, it's unfair to the players, which I know at least 30 friends who just got fired out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's that's how the industry is. So I don't really have any grudges against the teams. They're losing money having academy teams. I think the system itself is just kind of flawed, so the system should be improved on. But I don't really blame the teams if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that does, and I do think that's an interesting perspective. Something that isn't often talked about is like I mean, yeah, like it is really terrible that so many people lost their jobs and everything. But like you said, it is a huge risk to get in the industry. So I do think that is a unique perspective to bring. Um, I am curious. You said you found out via Twitter about the news, which I guess is kind of not entirely surprising. I feel like it should be, but maybe not. If I can ask this, and you don't have to answer. I don't know like what the your ability to speak on it is, but was Immortals Challengers slated to continue into summer, assuming, like you said, you thought it was going to happen in 2024?
Um, I mean, for my case, it's a bit different. I think I got kind of scapegoated out, which I appreciate. But my case isn't like my friends' cases. I have a lot of friends who were gonna play in academy via Riot LCS teams. You know, Mortals. I had friends like Wixie who was gonna stay in summer. He played really well. IMT cared a lot about keeping him. Um, and so he got cut because IMT dropped their academy team. For me, it's different. I played bad in spring. I had problems, internal problems with the staff, and I just got dropped like a normal player would you get dropped. I got
Okay.
dropped for performance based. I got dropped for performance based reasons, which I agree with, and so a lot of people say, "Oh, Chad's not in academy. The system's so bad," which I appreciate, but I didn't get dropped because of the system change. I got dropped because I played badly. Obviously, I could have had opportunities to continue playing on a different org, but then that couldn't have happened with the 7 teams dropping. So that's an angle, right? Maybe I would have stayed in the ecosystem if not for 7 teams coming out of the space, which I agree with because I think I'm still at that level. But for me, it's I can't really talk for all the people who got dropped because the orgs just fell out.
Mhm.
But you get the idea.
Yeah, no, that does make sense, and I'm curious as well. You said, that the system is a little broken, which I think a lot of people would agree with. So I would actually be curious if you could change anything from a player's perspective. What would it be? What would be something that you think could improve it? Or maybe you don't know, which is also completely valid. But just out of
Hmm.
curiosity.
I'd say like I mean maybe I guess it would go down to like the LCS salaries, right? Because 7 out of 10 the 10 teams that dropped their academy teams are saying because it's too expensive, right?
Mm,
Uh, okay, I forget the exact. I remember someone posted it, but like we could do quick maths. Like the minimum is 60K per player, so that's 300K from salaries, and then we'll say food and housing is like another 300K. So let's say an academy team is 600K to run, right? So academy team is 600K to run, and Sword Art got 7 million to do nothing, right? Perks got 3 million to go to Worlds with C9 and choke, right?
right.
So that's 10 million in 2 players that didn't really go to anything. So 10 million, and then to have 2 imports come to NA, while it's 600K to have 5 players in academy, right? And out of those 5 players, we had a JoJo, we've had a Danny, right? We have Tenacity, we have Buzio, we have all these like good NA talent. Um, and they were to have that is 600K in one team for 5 players, and we did 10 million to 2 players that gave the region in total nothing, right?
Hmm.
So I say like something doesn't really happen much anymore. But in my head, when I think of some sort of solution, I feel like that's something like that should never have happened, right?
Right.
Some sort of LCS salary cap, maybe averaging the numbers better. You know, something. It's a money game at the end of the day, right? So anything that you could do to make the money make more sense is where I would say the line has to be drawn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I've talked to actually a lot of people about this topic, and I've gotten similar answers. LCS inflated player salary is definitely coming back to bite us in the ass. It feels like a bit right now. Well, moving on sort of to a little bit more of the now and present. A lot of things have changed. The last question I have about sort of the format as a whole is how do you feel about like the overall NACL system in general with promotion, relegation? Like, do you feel like this is a good direction to go? And do you have any thoughts on that?
So funny enough, I know a little bit of how the system works, but I'd say going to this split, I have a different approach to it. My entire career, I've been a player who does like puts my nose into everything, every rumor that's going on, every system that's going on. On my IMT for over a year. I
Hmm.
had coaches or staff that didn't really like doing. I'm not saying it's this year or last split or 4 splits ago. I'm saying I was there for 4 splits, so in 2 out of those 4 splits, I was in a environment where my coach or staff or people I was around didn't really like doing like scouting reports, so they didn't really put the time into like draft scenarios. I'll just put it at that. So for a year of my academy thing as a player, I made scouting reports, I made draft preps,
Wow.
I did like stuff that analysts get paid for. I was doing. I literally had PowerPoints of like drafting of this is where they put their awards level 1, and 30 minutes before the match, I would call the players into a room, and be like, hey guys, let's look at the scouting report I made, right? So that was me as a player. I would like go above and beyond and look at the system, look at the stats, look at the, that was like the guy who did all, like I did as much as I could out of the game as I could in game, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays I'm like going into this play, I was like, I really want to focus on my individual performance. So now every time someone asks me, hey, do you know what the system is? Hey, what do you think about this team's roster? Hey, what do you think about tomorrow's schedule? Right? I just say, oh, I'm just a player. I play. I don't look at the schedule. I don't look at the brackets. I literally just say I'm just a player. I play. I'm doing my best you know impression of just that.
Yeah.
I'm going from doing the scouting reports to not even knowing who we play tomorrow. I'm just a player. I play, and I'm gonna focus on my own gameplay. And so that's my roundabout answer to you asking me what I think about the system is I don't. I'm just a player. I play.
Hey, that is completely valid. Like, honestly, first of all, I'm amazed that you were doing all that. Like, I feel like that maybe speaks to your leadership and everything like that. So, props, I guess, but I think it's completely valid to say, hey, I'm just a player, and that is what you're paid to do, right? So, I honestly respect. So, we can move on from that then and talk about the players and yourself. I am curious, as I said, you're someone that's been around for a little bit. You have been in the Academy Challenger system for a while. And I am curious, what motivates you still to keep playing? Do you still want to go pro? I know some people have talked about how that's not really something that they're looking for anymore. Unless the opportunity were to arise, they're motivated differently. I don't know if that's the case for you, and if you want to speak on that at all.
Yeah, I'd say it's. I like saying stories towards answers. Maybe that's just how I like to do interviews. But
Oh, go for it. We love them.
I had a middle school friend of mine I haven't seen in like 10 years, and I went to I went to get drinks with him like 2 weeks ago, and we sat down. I haven't seen him in like a couple of years. We just got a beer, and we just sat there, and we were asking. I asked him how it work for him. He's asking me how it work for me, and all this. And he's like in the know. He's not like a challenger player or anything, but he knows how the scene works. He hears about the news, right? So he heard about the academy teams dropping, and he asked me, if you go back in time, would you like still pursue pro or wouldn't? Because in all respect, I've had like in my head, in my opinion, a good career in esports is
Yeah.
playing LCS for a year. If you don't play LCS for a year, in my head, it's a failure of a how do you say it? Career. That's just how I view it. Some people
Okay.
see
Yeah.
playing one split in academy is already a success. I see it as if you're not starting on an LCS team for at least a year, it's a failure of a career, right? So in my head, oh, I played 2 years professionally, and so in my own head, I had a failure of a career. So he asked me, oh, so in your head, you've had a failure of a career. Would you, if you could go back in time, would you still become a pro? And I said my answer almost. I never thought about this answer before, but I said it instantly. I said, if I go back in time and told young Max uh exactly what would happen. 2 years, never go LCS, never had any big strides, etc. Would I still do it? And the answer I said to myself was, it has to be done. It had to be done, and like I could be like 30 or 40. It doesn't matter what happened. I had to. It doesn't matter how long I delayed myself in college or how long I delayed my life, or it's something that it had to be done. There's no like I can't really go into it. It had to be done.
Yeah.
So well, your original question was oh my god, I'm blanking.
Are you still motivated to
Oh
go
yeah,
pro
yeah,
at this
yeah,
point?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say until I'm not able to do it anymore, until I think I'm not good enough, or until I'm just not able to do it, I'd say I'll still chase that just playing on LCS, right? I played a single game in LCS because of a unfortunate inside org political war going on. I'll put it like that. But I played a single game of LCS not because of my own performance, but because of I got slotted in for a certain reason, and so I got to play on the stage once, and I feel like I have to like play on the stage in a more solidified manner before putting my cape up.
Yeah. Totally. I respect the hell out of that competitive drive. Truly, that is incredible. And so now on Mirage Alliance, I mean, pretty much everybody thought this is the most stacked team heading into the open qualifier. Everybody seeded you guys unanimously number one, at least on the committee, right? So how did this team sort of come together, and how did you find yourself here?
Again, I love my story. So, once I got kicked from IMT, um, I said it before a week before this split ended. So when we were still playing Improving Grounds, and I was still IMT. I my GM Torrington. I asked him, "Hey, can I talk to you in a room?" I knew I was playing bad the entire split. I knew that if I played like really good in PG, we went all the way, I would probably keep my spot because it's a performance-based job. So if you perform, that you'll probably keep your job. But I knew that I played bad. I played badly during the split, so I was like, "Hey, Torrington, can I talk to you?" He's the general manager. I got him in a room. I said, "Hey, win or lose, if we make it to top two or if we make it to top 16, right? If we're last or first, doesn't matter what we are." If I get kicked or don't get kicked, I want to know that you can help me get a ride account in Korea. Because I was like, if you kick me, then I need to get a high rank in Korea so I can look good to the other teams. And if you don't kick me, then I'll still go to Korea so I can improve and be a better player for you in summer, right? And he said, of course, Max. Like, we don't know if we're gonna kick you or not yet. We have no idea. Like, we're still not done with the split. But I'll make sure if you're here with us or not with us, I'll make sure you get the right account, right? So in my head, I went to Korea for 2 months, and unfortunately, I actually didn't get a challenger. I considered it like a failure of a trip. I think I was definitely good enough to do it, but I tilted a lot too much, and that server is just it will do crazy things to your mental. But point is,
We've been there. We've been
yes,
there with the tilt, I feel like.
yeah. So I've been there for 2 months, and I made an LFT post when I was there. And in 2 months of being in Korea and grinding, I didn't get a single DM from any of the teams, not even not amateur teams, not academy teams, nothing, right? And I was like, oh my god, I guess I can't go pro anymore. I guess I'm actually too bad. I'm washed. It's so terrible, right? And then I'm actually in my layover. I leave Korea. Also at the time I'm homeless because I lived at the IMT apartments before I went to Korea, and then I got kicked. Um, and then I'm in Korea, and the house I was living in was IMT apartments, which I'm no longer a part of. So now I'm flying back to LA, uh, with like I don't have a house to live in, so I'm
Yeah.
homeless and jobless on a plane from Korea back to LA, and I have my layover in Honolulu, and I'm getting my luggage in the Honolulu airport, and I check my phone, and I see I have like 10% battery. I check my phone, I get a Discord DM, basically saying from the owner of my org, Norm, uh, hey, we're interested in talking to you. Um, Dardock thinks that you're the best fit for the team. Dardock wants to roll swap to support so you can play jungle. We're paying org, right? All this stuff.
Wow.
And I'm
Wait,
like
so
2 months.
sorry if I can interject. So Dardock wanted to bring you in and was willing to roll swap to bring you in. That's actually really interesting to me. So
Yeah,
that's super cool. Wow.
yeah. So I'm 2 months grinding in Korea. Don't get a single DM. I think, oh my god, my life's over. Everything's fucked. I'm in my layover in Honolulu. And I open my phone and I'm like, and I see this, and I'm like, oh wow, well, I guess I'm back, right? I'm back, just like
Hell
that.
yeah,
I'm back.
yeah.
Like, but yeah. So I say, and then like I'm in LA, and for 2 weeks, It's funny. I go for 2 months in Korea, with no one messaging me. I land in LA, and I had like, I don't have a certain number, but it was
So everyone just like showered you with DMs like that day.
yeah, I got a handful of, I mean, like a 2 day span. I got like 5 or 6 team DMs.
Wow.
Two of them were NACL teams, and the other four were just OQ teams. And I did like a week of looking at all the options and all the potential rosters on all the like 6 teams and the pay differences and all this. And at the very end, I had the 6 teams. I crossed off 4 off the list, and I had 2 teams left. It was actually no, I crossed off three teams on the list. I was considering between 3 teams, 2 of the OQ teams and 1 of the NACL teams. And at the end I chose the OQ team, which I guess maybe it's a controversial choice to play when you choose to play in tier 3 instead of choosing to play in tier 2, since I had that tier 2 offer. But in my head, I'd rather get first in OQ than get a potential 6th or 7th or 8th in NACL. So so that's what that's how the team was formed. I'd say the reason why I chose the OQ team was I looked at the rosters and I was like, I think this OQ roster is literally better than the NACL roster.
Fair
So that
enough.
doesn't.
Yeah.
So that so I looked at it like that. Like as a player, like I said, like I'm a player this split. I just want to play. So as a player, it's not about the money. It's not about the time. It's like as a player, you just want to play with the best roster. You want to play with the best players. And I'm like, okay, well, if I think this OQ team is better than the NACL roster, then I feel like it's a no-brainer. So I just went with Mirage. I think all my teammates are really good. I think they're all like academy level, and that's how the kind of the team was formed. And I also thought of like it was almost like it's like I mean, it's not the word symbolic, but I was like, if you have a player who played LCS for what 5 years, an LCS level jungler who tells you they'll roll swap to support so you can play jungle, I feel like if that doesn't like say how that doesn't explain the situation a little bit, then I don't know what will, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the biggest compliment you could get, I'd say.
I know. Well, that's why I wanted to like take a moment for that because that is super freaking cool. Because of course, I mean, out in Los Angeles, we got to watch Dardoch win CLOL as well. Like the guy has still got it in jungle, so that is really cool that he was willing to roll swap to bring you on. And I mean, it's looked pretty damn good so far to my eye test at the very least for both of you. And so I mean, first of all, I really appreciate it. You say, you have another story. Like, your stories are great, and I think that's a great way to answer all the questions. So I actually appreciate that a lot. And there's a lot I want to kind of dive into a little bit here. So the first one being, you said that Mirage Alliance, like, I mean, as we said, it looks pretty fucking stacked. Like, you guys look like a great roster. How confident are you to be able to promote into the NACL next split, both in terms of the competition in the open qualifier, as well as, I don't know if you've been watching the NACL or if you've just been, hey, the player that's just playing, but 2 weeks in, like, how are you feeling about your prospects of promotion?
So, as a player, something I did as a player in academy for 2 years, I would like to say I'm the only player who's ever done this. I have no idea. If another player wants to tell me that they've done it before, then I'll take it. But in 2 years of playing academy, I watched every single academy game, no matter what. It's like Cubby goes on Twitter and does his streams
Yeah.
it, so he's like proof of it, right? I don't have any proof, but I watched every single academy game.
I
And that was
believe you.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my schedule was I would go home and I would just play on 4x speed. I'd just watch every single game. Um, and that was just how I spent my time. I've gotten a lot of flack as a player for not grinding more of the game. Because every hour I'm watching a VOD, I'm not playing the game, right? I think there's pros and cons to both. I've had a lot of success in academy, invading certain teams because I know they don't have level 1 wards, for example, right? And I only got that. I've got those wins from watching VODs, right? Which you can't really get from spamming. But I think I'm getting off topic here. But the point is, oh my god, I almost forgot the original question.
How are you feeling about potentially
Oh yeah, perfect. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, so as I said, now I'm a player. I just play. Well, something about my roots of watching every game just haven't gone away. So I still been watching the last 2 weeks
Yeah.
of the academy.
I mean,
So, and
I do feel like there's, even in traditional sports as well, like players watch film, even though
Yeah.
they're just the players. So I think that's still like a lot of
Yeah.
merit to that for you.
yeah, so even though I say I'm just a player, I just play. I've still been watching. I'd say a big majority of the academy games the last 2 weeks. I've watched. Let's say, no, let's say there's been 20 games. I've watched maybe 18 or 17. Right? There's like 2 games I haven't watched. I was busy. But
Yeah,
I'd say I
yeah.
watched most of the games. I don't think the gap's too big. Funny enough, when I was making my when I was making my list of like teams to cross off, the 6 teams I was talking to, and I had a pros and cons list of joining the NACL team and joining the OQ team, right? And one of the cons of the OQ team was, like, even though the roster's better, because we're an OQ team, we won't get academy scrims. So I'll be like, it'll be like super boring. We'll just be scrimming the same OQ teams every game, and it'll be like, I knew the games because I knew that our roster would be way better. I was like, scrims are gonna be so boring. We won't learn anything. We'll just be stomping. That was one of the cons for joining the OQ team. But funny enough, since we've been a team for 2 weeks now, we've actually we have more academy scrims than OQ scrims.
Really?
Yeah, we let's say we've scrimmed 10 times, we've scrimmed Academy 7, we've scrimmed OQ 3 times. That's
Wow.
that's like the ratio. So one of my cons to joining the team was, we won't be able to scrim Academy, we'll be stuck scrimming OQ teams, that's gonna suck. And then that wasn't even the case. We're scrimming more NACL teams than OQ teams. So because of that, I could say like fair confidence that I think we'll do fine regulating them, because to regulate them you have to beat them, and we beat them in scrims more often than not. I won't say any teams, obviously. But, some teams have our number. I'd say other teams we have their number. It's pretty even. But
Yeah.
the fact that we can scrim academy teams and we're not getting stomped and we're a pretty new team, I'd say says a lot. You know.
Yeah, definitely. And I take it as well based on why this was a con. Like, last split, it would have been exceedingly rare. If not, it would have never happened that Challengers teams were scrimming OQ teams. Like, did Immortals Challengers probably never scrimmed Maryville? Or did you? I don't know.
It's every time you have like a bad week of scrims, there's always the occasional. I think we scrimmed MU once or twice.
Okay.
But I'd say a better example is a year ago when Amateur was, I say, a bit stronger, and like there was a team like 100X with Insanity on it, right? It was
yeah.
Insanity, Fnatic, Sniper.
Yep.
100X got plenty of academy scrims. You know,
Okay.
it's always been if you're a really good tier 3 team, you'll get scrims with tier 2. Same with other way. If you're a really good tier 2 team, you'll get scrims with tier 1. I remember back when we were 3rd or 4th. We were scrimming. We scrimmed some LCS teams. Same with I know TL Academy when they were back-to-back PG champs. I know that they had a couple of LCS scrims. I remember they were scrimming INT LCS sometimes. They would scrim their own LCS teams, right? So it's always been if you're the best tier 2 team, you'll scrim some of the tier 1 teams. If you're the best tier 3 team, you'll scrim some of the tier 2 teams. That's always been the case. I just thought it was more rare than it wasn't, but I guess for us it's more normal.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So, and then as far as still talking about the competition this split, I'm glad to hear that you've still got the confidence and that things are going well for all of you. Are there any teams that you're specifically looking at, like whether or not you think they're good or you're just excited to play against someone on the team, or any junglers like that you want to have that grudge match with, take them down? I don't know, anyone you're excited to play?
I wouldn't say I have any grudge matches, but I'd say the only jungler so far that I like playing against is Limo. I've always liked playing against former students. In academy, I would get asked who do I want to play against. I would say Perry because I coached Perry for over a year.
Oh,
right?
that's awesome.
With Limo, I haven't coached him nearly as much as I coached Perry in the past, but I say I do help out Limo every so often. So always playing against someone you coach is really fun because there's like a mental game to it because you know what they're gonna do, and they know what you want to do because you tell them how you play the game. So.
Right.
I'd say there's like a mini mental block against playing your students, which is always really fun because you could kind of like you could do things that you
Right.
can't normally get, but you could get away with it against your students because
So, like you each other know what you want to do, but then you know that they know that you know.
it goes like that. It's like then you do like really simple things because they'll think that you'll never do simple stuff because that's my teacher. He does really complex shit, right? And then I'm just doing really simple stuff. So there's a mind game to it. It's really fun. So I'd say Limo is probably one of the better junglers in Amateur. I forget if Fnatic's on the team. I kind of wanted to play against Fnatic because last time I played against them was when I was 100X. We were both in Amateur. I think he's on the team.
I think Fan's a sub right now on a team.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's for Champs Q purposes or what, but not currently starting.
Yeah. We'll see. But I'd say Limo's the jungler. I have my eye on the most right now.
Nice. That's fun. I'm hoping you get that shot. I mean, what TA, pretty strong so far. So. Definitely.
Yeah, we played against them in the OQ thing last week.
Yeah, I actually casted that game. That was pretty brutal for her.
Yeah, me and Limo VOD reviewed it the day after. I'd say a bit unfortunate with I think their top laners going to LAN or something, so they might have a new top laner. So I think the team might get. I'm not sure. It's not like a leak or anything. I think Bajani posted on Twitter like an airplane and a flag, right? So usually it sounds like he's flying out somewhere, but we'll see. I think Limo's one of the better junglers in Amateur. So always fun to play against other junglers.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I know I already asked about promotion relegation, but I'm gonna ask you to call somebody out. Who you demoting? Like, is there one team that you're like, hey, like we got they're going down, or you don't have to, but
it's weird. I'd say like I gotta double check the standings. I'm not calling these the two bottom teams in Academy. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying public perception is that they are. So I say, but the thing is, I have friends on both teams.
Right.
So public perception says that I think I'm gonna double check the standings so I'm not wrong, but I'm pretty sure public perception is that the two weakest teams are AoE and Supernova, and as I'm checking, and Team Ashtaka. So yeah, those three teams are tied for last right now.
But hey, TFT split 1-1 with Team Liquid, and they should have 2-0'd them. So
yeah, Roaster went crazy. Went crazy. But anyway, so those three teams are considered the bottom three teams. I have friends on I'm friends with all three junglers on those three teams, so I'm not gonna say anything too Chad Jungle-esque. Uh, but out of those three teams, I think all three teams are beatable. I'd say out of those three teams, I think the best team is AoE.
Okay.
Um, but I'd say besides that, so then it would be Supernova and TFT. I'm friends with Music. I'm friends with Rosethorn. I'd say just for history's sake, I'll say out of those three teams, the one I want to regulate the most is TFT, just because Rosethorn kicked me out of Academy. The last split we played against each other. IMT's losing series was against GGS, and they narrowly beat us, barely. So I'd say regulating Rosethorn, sorry Tim, good friend of mine, would be it would make the history books. It would make sense.
It would make things right, I suppose, in the
Yeah.
timeline. I love that. That's so great. Well, Chad, I've just got a couple more questions for you. Pretty small ones. I know we've talked a lot about your growth already and how your mindset has changed, but also in many ways stayed the same, and you have that drive and everything. I would just ask you. You at this point would be considered a veteran. How do you feel you've grown since first coming to the scene as a player? Like if a GM talked to you all the way back in what, like 2020, how would you say that 2023 Chad is different to that player back then?
Um, it's funny because it's so weird how like narrations work and all this. Because I remember being in scouting grounds. So before I was like a pro player, right? And the coach was asking me, "What do you want to like get better on this year? What do you want to improve on? What do you want to like make your strength?" Right? And I remember telling them, because I just got off of right. I was going into scouting grounds, winning PG, and I was playing tanks. Right? I was playing Trundle and Nocturne. Just facilitators, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to scouting grounds saying, "I want to be like I know my fingers can carry, but I want to like learn how to carry the game like through comms and through conditions and through, I want to play the carry role, but in a sense where anyone can like have fast fingers, but having fast fingers and saying, "Oh, I need to support row with me and invade this Raptors with me," right? Making map plays around your lead and snowballing that lead into a win, right? So I was telling with the coaches and all this, that's what I wanted to do. And in 2 years of playing Academy, I'd say that's kind of what I can do now. I'm playing in these OQ games, and I know the level is a little bit lower, but calming conditions and saying how you want to play the map, and then playing the map accordingly. Like if you could be playing an LCS, you could be playing an amateur. The ability to do that is still the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say in 2 years, I went from telling coaches I want to learn how to carry a game, uh, with calming it to being able to do it. So I'd say it's weird, but I got older. So when you get older, people say you can't carry, your mechanics are worse. But in my head, like my
Yeah.
strengths 2 years ago are still my strengths. I can play facilitators. I can play with the team, right? I had decent pathing. And my weakness was I couldn't carry a game through just couldn't carry a game. And now I'm like, oh, my strength is still my strength, and my weakness, which I couldn't carry a game, is now my strength. I'm picking Kindred and Kha'Zix and Graves every game, and it's not that I'm winning these games because I'm just like finger checking them in River.
Right.
I'm winning these games because I'm communicating my conditions better. I'm playing around my gold better. I'm playing the map better. So I think doing that on carries is just been my what I've improved on the most. So I'd say if I had to tell a GM right now, as you said, what's the biggest difference as a player right now? I'd say being able to play every role. I think it's really rare in Academy that you have a player who can play jungle, facilitators and carries. You have like the in like the history of like 3 years of Academy junglers. I'd say like the goats of Academy jungle were like in the last 3 years. We'll say it's Armao and Ken V. I'd say that's a fair assessment, right?
Yeah.
Ken V, yeah, he'll carry on carries. And he's the carry. He's a monster on carries, right? You get him with Kindred or Graves, he'll carry. And then with Armao, it's like, yeah, this guy's playing Volibear or Trundle, and he'll carry the game with objective control and playing with the team. But there's never really been a jungler who does both. On game one they're playing Graves, and game two they're playing Volibear. That's never been the thing. So I think for me, that's like in my head, that's my biggest strength. Is you'll see
Yeah.
me playing game one Kha'Zix and dropping 18 kills, like I did like a week ago, and then I'll be playing Poppy or Maokai jungle in the next game, And it was actually the series that I forget if you were casting it, but I know Smacks was casting it because I watched the VOD. But yeah, game two, I played Poppy full tank jungle, dead man's first, and I ran around the map getting like I Poppy ulted the jungler out of the pit and stole the objective. I did flashies on the wall, right? Just playing tank, up tank jungle. And then game three, I picked Kha'Zix and dropped 18 kills, right? I think it's really rare for junglers to have
Mhm.
they could switch between carry and tank like that. And I think that that's probably my biggest strength as a player.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that so much. Well, I've just got one more question for you. This one's a bit of a softball, I suppose. But, I'm always so curious. Like, you sort of talked about you're friends with a lot of players in the scene and all of that. Like, from what I know about teams that have player like Dardoch on them, for example, very vocal player. We heard in CLOL every UST game there was all chat banter. Like, is there all chat banter with the Mirage Alliance games? Like mental warfare going on, anything like that, or?
Nah, I'd say the only time you talk in ultra is if there's a rivalry or if there's beef or if you're playing against a team that you're better that's better than you and you want to get in their heads. But
Hmm.
for us, we don't have any of those three things. We
That's
don't
fair.
do that. We don't do the third one because we don't think any team's better. So we're not gonna shit talk worse players. I think shit talking worse players is kind of BM, right?
Yeah.
That's A. B. There's no rivalries because we're the best team. And three, it's I forgot the third thing I said, but the point is, there's no point.
Right.
I think we played 5 games with Oki, and then we played 8 games of group stage. So we played 8 games competitively so far in the tournament, and in 8 games we only opened all chat once, and it was because someone took flash on Gwen, and Alorum was like crying in disbelief. I think in 8 games we opened all chat once just for that one reason, right? So, uh, and it was just funny. So I'd say that's
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
We're not really if we get to a point where we like consistently drop games or something to a certain team and there's like a rivalry or something, then
Rivalry. Right.
I see a world,
So in
but that's
promotion,
about
if
it.
you play Rosethorn, that's when you might open up all chat and like let them, give it a little
It's
banter or
it's
something.
hard because like Tim's still my friend, so like I've always been someone who like I respect the game. Like
Right, right.
if there's like an interview before a match or someone's asking me, so you're playing against Roadstar next Monday, how are you gonna do? Then I'll shoot the shit like, oh yeah, he's bad, I'll invade him, something, right? But when it comes to like the match, like to me that's like a sacred place, you know?
Yeah.
It's just how I see it. Out of the match, before the game, after the game, I'm always down to, make some jokes or throw some banter, make it spicy. But in the game, I'm like, it's better player will win, and you get the idea. There's the occasional like slash XD when like 3 people flash on you and you live. But that's not really much, you know.
No, I totally get that. Does make a lot of sense. It's always just funny. I love hearing about the players and their banter and stuff. So we see some of it, of course, but you don't see all of it. So you let the Chad jungle play speak to them for themselves on the Rift. I think maybe it's fair to say. Well, that's great. Well, Chad, before I let you go, anything that you just want to shout out? Anyone you want to shout out, or anything else you want to say before we conclude?
Um, yeah, maybe. I think funny enough, I don't know what audience views this, but I will be starting streaming soon. I'll do a little story with that. You like my stories? I'll do another story with my
Go
shout
for
out
it. Yeah.
story. 2 years before I went pro, I was a streamer. I use streamer loosely because I think at my peak I was averaging like 105 viewers, right? So this is before I went pro. This is before I was 100x. This is when I was like a GM player. I wouldn't even consider myself a challenger player, right? So I was a GM player and I was averaging 105 viewers. Um, and um, and I remember thinking like I'm playing so much worse on stream. And I want to go pro. So I made a decision. Do I A, just don't care about going pro and just pursue streaming, or B, do I drop streaming and pursue pro? And then I turned off my stream, and then I didn't stream for 9 months, and those not and then 3 months after I stopped streaming, I got 100x, right? I got high challenger, I got 100x. So I made the decision, pro or streaming. I chose pro because if you're streaming, you play worse, you have less focus, you can't focus on your best gameplay.
Hmm.
Um, and now after 2 years of playing pro, I kind of want to give streaming another go. I think it was fun to do. It's always nice to have your keep doors open. So very soon, probably the next week, I'm gonna start like full-time streaming again after scrims. Maybe make some YouTube videos. So keep your eye. Shout out to myself. Keep your eye on my
Yeah.
YouTube, Chad Jungle. Keep your eye on Twitch, Chad Jungle. I'll probably start streaming some more. I think it'll be really fun to do. And then yeah. Shout out Brady, Bomba. Shout out my teammates. And yeah, thanks. We're gonna make sure to keep winning.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. Check out the stream, like you said. I'll definitely be on the lookout for that. Maybe I'll probably throw that in the description of this video, and you can go watch Chad Jungle's stream and YouTube videos when that happens. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know you've got a match in about an hour, so I'll wish you the best of luck in that, and also moving forward. I know I'll be rooting for you and hoping to see you have a great season. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to Chad. Always nice to talk to a player
Yeah.
that has had so much different experience. He's literally played all 3 levels: LCS, 1 game, Challengers, and NACL qualifiers now, and has looked pretty good in all 3.
Not the LCS 1 game, but yeah. No, I mean, yeah, no, he
More than me.
That's, you know what? That's a great point. Definitely more than both of us combined. Oh, no, it is really great getting to hear from Chad. I like how, despite everything that's happened, still as confident as ever, you know, true to his name, true Giga Chad energy coming off of him. He's like, yeah, you know, like, we may have just lost to potentially the worst team in the group stage, but we're still the best. Like, no big deal. No, in all seriousness,
that's
though,
kind of
great
those
insight.
are the vibes I got from them in the loss. It's like, yeah, we don't really care that we lost that game, because like literally like game 3, Chad like locked in Kha'Zix and got like 20 kills.
Yeah.
So like we know that they're gonna be
He's
good.
like, oh, we got cheesed a little bit, like a little bit of an eco check. All good. You know, it's.
Yeah.
No, it was really great though. I mean, like he provided a lot of good insight both on the like the system and his career as a whole. So I really appreciate getting to talk to him. And if you're a player, you know, maybe let us know if you want to have a chat, whether you're in the NACL or the qualifiers. We'd love to talk to you. Obviously, it was really great to talk to Chad in particular because he's someone that's been on both sides of it this year. But yeah, Grapes, anything else to wrap us up? What we got games this weekend.
Got a game this weekend. Said that like 3 times already. Make sure to watch Hawk on CBLOL English. You guys got like 12,000 viewers at one point.
We had 15,000 viewers for like 2 hours, and then they all went away, and we don't know what happened. But we did have it for like 2 hours, and it was great. And we're hoping to keep growing. It's been a lot of fun. So,
if you want to watch another league that's not NACL, you can have multiple monitors up at the same time. It's always a good thing as well. But yeah, keep supporting us. If you enjoy the content, let us know what else you want to see, and I think that's about it to wrap up episode 20.
Yeah, it's been a good one. I know it's like it feels like so little has happened, and yet this is definitely at the part of the split where things are starting to heat up. We're moving towards our midpoint. We're gonna start getting towards elimination matches in the qualifiers as well. Like, things are going to start happening soon. So this was sort of the calm before the storm. Talking to a player, getting the lay of the land, talking about some of the teams, but it's definitely all gonna start going down. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media if you want to keep track of all the action. Follow both me and Grapes at Hawkcast, at Speedy Grapes on Twitter as well. We tweet a lot about the leagues that we're invested in. And hey, if you thought that Mirage Alliance is bad because they lost to CB Gaming, you can take what we said with a grain of salt. But that's going to do it for us. I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. Have a great night, everyone.